These are some of the most horrific ways you could die in space, and some of these will terrify you of our galaxy. Starting off with the black hole. They're extremely dangerous because if you were sucked into a black hole, it would make things 100 times worse than any other way you could die, being one of the most nightmarish ways to die in all of space. That's because when you come near a black hole, you will experience increasingly strong gravitational forces, stretching your body in all sorts of ways. These forces would get stronger the closer you get to the black hole, stretching your body in a gruesome way. You would feel time begin to slow down as you get closer to the so-called event horizon. This is the point where the speed needed to escape the black hole is higher than the speed of light, and when you go past this, some extreme painful things start to happen. First, you start to experience something known as spaghettification. That's when the gravitational pull starts to stretch your body into a long, thin shape, similar to spaghetti. This would be extremely painful since it would literally break every bone in your body and stretch your skin to lengths it should never stretch. This is also the point where there's no escape possible, and that's a very bad thing, since you're now going near the singularity. This will cause the black hole to tear apart every single atom in your body, which will leave nothing left of you, making it seem like you never even existed. And even though the odds of actually being sucked into a black hole are near zero, it's one of the scariest things any human can possibly imagine, just like the HD 189733b planet. Being only a few light years from Earth, this planet seems kind of normal at first. It's 17 times larger than Earth, and it has winds of up to 5,000 miles per hour. So beside the fact that you're being tossed around like a water bottle at a Travis Scott concert, you begin to experience the wrath of the rain of this planet, which is 1,000 times worse. Due to the high temperatures on this planet, the rain is nothing like we would experience on Earth. Instead, it's made of molten glass. This glass would rain down on you at speeds of up to 1,000 miles per hour, not to mention that it's also several thousand degrees hot, meaning if it comes into contact with your clothing, it would instantly melt through whatever you're wearing, which is only made worse by the insane amount of radiation you're bombarded with whenever you go near this planet. This radiation is caused by the planet's parent star, which causes you to die from radiation sickness if you get too close to the planet without extreme caution. Surviving near this planet would be almost impossible, and it would be one of the most painful deaths imaginable, as your skin gets shredded down to the bone. But this next death method will leave you wishing you died way quicker. Whilst being very beautiful to look at, Saturn's rings are not a fun place to be around. The rings are composed of countless particles ranging from tiny dust grains to objects the size of mountains traveling 90,000 miles per hour. And if you were somehow able to survive all those rocks going 50 times faster than a bullet, you need to start worrying about all the non-visible things that are happening around you. If you got hit by one of these particles, it's safe to say that you wouldn't be around to tell the story. But it gets worse. Saturn has a strong magnetic field which traps charged particles, creating an impossible environment to survive in. If you stay here for longer than a few minutes, you're unfortunately not making it out alive. This is because the radiation that's emitted leaves your body full of cancer, shredding DNA and other long-term effects. And don't think a spaceship would help you out here either, since all the particles shooting around can become electrostatically charged. This means that they can shock every electronic component of your ship, leaving you with no way to control its direction. So while this would leave you with a slow, painful death, a gamma ray would do the quite opposite. Gamma rays are some of the deadliest things you can encounter in space. They're created during some of the universe's most violent events like supernovas or solar flares. And while they might look like ultraviolet light at first, these rays are a lot deadlier. They release more energy in a single second than our sun will emit in 10 billion years. And it's powerful enough to destroy entire planets. It can do this by completely ripping apart the planet's atmosphere, causing most of the planet's oxygen to disappear along with all the water, leaving it completely lifeless. If your body comes in contact with a gamma ray, it would instantly destroy most of your cells, combined with permanently changing your DNA, which will quickly kill you. Not to mention that these gamma rays can go through any material, so a spacesuit won't even save you. But these gamma rays get infinitely scarier when you see them in the form of a gamma ray burst. They're created when massive stars collapse into black holes, and the scariest part about these things is just how wide they can get. You see, these gamma ray bursts aren't like anything you've ever seen, since they can be billions of kilometers wide whilst traveling at the speed of light around the universe. If you have the misfortune of being hit by the gamma ray burst, you luckily won't have to suffer for long, since you would be dead before you even saw it coming. This would be one of the most terrifying things to witness in all of space. together with supernovas. A supernova is the largest explosion in the entire universe, resulting from the death of a star. When these giants explode, they create all sorts of problems from anything living in the universe. It would all start with a blast wave traveling at 30,000 kilometers per second, meaning it completely destroys anything it comes in contact with. If you were to get hit by this, your odds of survival would be very minimum, but for your own sake, you would hope it ended there. If you somehow survive the blast, you would need to start worrying about the extreme heat that's going to follow it. This heat is split into 3 different regions, with the core region being the most deadly. This region spans billions of kilometers and will incinerate anything that comes in its path, which is because the temperatures in this region can be up to millions of degrees, which is hundreds of times hotter than the outer layer of our own sun. This is all assuming that you were a few billion kilometers away from the burst. So let's just imagine you unfortunately enough happen to be right beside it. If this was a big enough explosion, the death of the star would come with a black hole, meaning your body would start to stretch because of the unbearable pain. Luckily, the pain doesn't last for long, as it would be followed by a heat wave from the supernova that can reach up to billions of degrees Celsius. All of this is paired with the fact that the supernova can create other disasters like gamma ray bursts or solar flares, so we just have to hope one doesn't appear near Earth. Kind of like how you'd hope that you don't experience a micrometeorite. Micrometeorites pose a great threat to people in space and on Earth, but not because of their size. Although they usually aren't bigger than a grain of salt, these things do incredible damage to whatever comes in contact with it. This danger mostly comes from how fast they move, since these micrometeorites can move at speeds of up to 150,000 miles per hour, which is over 100 times faster than a fighter jet. If you were to get hit by one of these things while in space, it could easily penetrate your suit and go straight into your body. This would cause leaks, which results in rapid decompression and lack of oxygen, instantly killing you. And even though the odds of this happening are very small, it has actually happened that micrometeorites crashed into the International Space Station, but luckily the crew was quick to patch the hole, so there was no casualties thankfully. Speaking of crew, their surroundings aren't the only things that you face as an astronaut, because as it turns out, they themselves are among some of the most dangerous things in space. This is because of mental disturbance. You see, mental disturbances in space are a serious concern for astronauts, as the extreme conditions that they live in can cause intense side effects which can drive people into psychosis or even suicide. One of the biggest of these factors is the severe isolation that these astronauts need to live in. Being away from family and friends for a long time can lead to depression, and if it's severe, even mental breakdowns. This is only made worse by the lack of livable space in the spacecraft, which creates feeling of anxiety, claustrophobia, even if you didn't naturally have it. There's actually an Adam Sandler movie came out recently about this, and it actually goes into pretty deep depth of how bad these can actually be. You see, when you're in space, you also have to experience severe sensory deprivation, such as disturbed sleep rhythms from a lack of natural light. All these things can cause you to fall into depression or psychosis, where you lose touch with reality. This is extremely dangerous because every decision you make in space is crucial to survival. And the scariest part is that there's not much you can do about this. Of course, you can train to keep your mind sharp, but there's no guarantee that it won't happen to you. After enough time, it always will. Hopefully a psychotic astronaut doesn't eat the fellow astronauts that they're around, but if they did, they would have a suspicious amount in common with the so-called cannibal stars. You see, cannibal stars are a star that is in the process of consuming materials from stars close to them, which can sometimes go very wrong. The best case scenario begins with you permanently blinded from the extreme bright light, meaning the following would all be experienced in complete darkness. After you've gone blind, you would experience the extreme heat coming from the emitted radiation, which will kill you over time no matter what happens next. If you were in a spaceship, it would quickly get tossed away by the following shockwave, which carries a lot of highly energetic materials, which will bombard whatever it is you're hiding in. If by some miracle you've survived so far, the radiation will slowly kill you over the few days that follow. And this is a best case scenario. If things turn out differently, the collision could turn into a black hole or even a supernova, which as we said would be pretty bad for you. And although sometimes people say RIP when you die, you could definitely say the same about the Big Rip. The Big Rip is a hypothetical scenario in which the expansion of the universe accelerates to the point where it tears everything apart in existence. This is all caused by something known as dark energy, which counteracts gravity and causes the universe's expansion to accelerate over time. As the Big Rip unfolds, galaxies, stars, and everything else will be ripped apart in a matter of seconds. And in those seconds, you will feel the most amount of pain that a human can physically feel ever. The scariest part about this is that most professionals agree that this event will happen at some point in the world. And there's no telling of when it's going to happen. It could be tomorrow or even in 1 billion years. But nonetheless, it would be one of the most painful ways you could ever die. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, watch the video on screen. YouTube thinks you like it. We do too. It's a pretty good video. Right, bye-bye now.